Hey, if you ever wanted to know what is the first thing I need to farm out when following the daily success plan, you're listening to the right episode. We've got Kristin with Kristin's Corner, my man Carl White, and you are listening to the Loan Officer Leadership Podcast powered by the Mortgage Marketing Animals. And man, we've got a great topic that came straight out of the Loan Officer Breakfast Club Facebook group. And so, Kristin, we got a great topic. I think you're going to stump Carl today.
Oh, is this the game we're playing? Stump Carl today?
Well, we could try.
Hey, I'm pretty easy to get stumped. I just want to say, that it doesn't take much,
These are the best episodes, man. You always got something good coming
By
out
the
of
way,
that
did you
Facebook group.
so the spelling bee, the big, I guess it's national or
Yeah.
world, it must be national spelling bee just finished up. And
What was the word?
dude, I can't even pronounce. I shouldn't have even brought it up because I don't know, I couldn't spell it. That was one of those things, it started with an S, but it didn't. It started with a P, and it's look, like phone. Why didn't they just use FONE? I don't know. Why did they do phone? I've never understood that. So, but anyway, that's totally off topic. We'll probably edit all that out. So what's our topic?
Okay, so we were on the Breakfast Club this morning and somebody had submitted the question, hey, when we're doing the DSP and we're working it and we start to hire help or we're looking to hire help, an assistant, a loan partner, an LOA, whatever that winds up being, what is the first piece of the DSP? What day do I farm out first? And Carl, you were answering the question, and Steve, and I know you had a bunch of numbers around this, Carl, as far as, hey, when you get to this many loans a month, I'm going to farm out this. And then the next piece is this. And it got me to thinking, for the majority or a good portion, I should say, of the people on that call, and maybe our audience too, it might be the wrong question. And what I mean by that is, if this is my money-making activity, man, that's the last thing I'm going to farm out. So maybe I'm not looking at which day of the DSP do I want to give somebody else to do, which is my top dollar activity. That's my money-making activity, right? My non-negotiable. Maybe the question is, what else am I looking to farm out? What else do I need somebody to do? So I thought maybe we could talk about that.
So what you're saying, Kristin, is, and for if somebody's new here, our data success plan is our theme days where we make our phone calls. And so Mondays to our agents, and Tuesdays our update calls, and Wednesday past database, Thursday our pre-approved looking, using a very specific script that's worked, and with a call to action for them to refer us business, right? And so the question was, when do I, which part do I farm out first of my daily sales activity? And man, I think this could be the shortest episode ever, Kristin, because I think you already answered it.
Yeah.
It's is the sales activity what you want to farm out, or is it everything else? Talk about that a little bit, Kristin.
Yeah, well, I was, as we were starting to answer that question, in my head, I was going in a totally different direction than kind of where we wound up going, which is totally fine. I love that's why we.
No, it's not fine, because you were 100% right. We're sitting there trying to solve a problem that shouldn't even exist.
Yeah. Well, we were at a Y in the road, and I was going one direction, and you two were going the other direction. And I thought, oh man, I'm really off base. But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, well, for a large chunk of our audience, maybe I'm not off base, and that is, until I've taken everything off my plate that is not a money-making activity. And maybe we can talk about what those things are. Man, I'm not giving somebody else that job. I'm not having somebody else call my database unless I physically don't have time, because, there are other things that I'm going to look at to take off my plate first. And so that's where I was going with that.
You know what, Steve, when she said that, I thought, she showed us up. So people say, why don't you have Kristin on more often? This is why, right?
It's the wise answer. I mean, that's it. You got to stay close to the
Steve
money.
and I are sitting here trying to look smart, and then Kristin comes in and just bowls us all over, and it's like, holy cow, that was absolutely, because if we look at that, the first thing I was thinking of when she was going through that is all right, let's take the average loan officer. Now, I don't know what the average loan officer makes, right? I'm sure I could Google it and there's a number that comes up. But that's also going to include the salaried, W-2 loan officers that work at Bank of whatever, Tampa. And I'm just making that name up, right? But like I'll use in our coaching group, like, and again, I'm just making up this number because I guess it'd be easy enough to find out the number, and I'm sure we do know what the number is. I just don't have it here in front of me. But let's say like if you look at the bell-shaped curve, I would think that probably the middle of the curve is, I don't know, 400,000, 500,000. And we have people making $2, $3, $4 million a year as a loan officer, right? Closing loans, not as the owner of the mortgage company, because we have owners that are making much more than that. But let's just say 400,000 is average, right? Just whatever, hypothetically. All right, the average processor is making, and I'm going to just grab a number, 60,000.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 70, maybe it's 50, but let's just say maybe it's 65, but let's just say it's 60,000. So we have the salesperson making 400,000. We have the support team making 60,000. And so the loan officer saying, hey, I'm going to offload the 400,000 part. And so I can do more of the so I can be my processor's assistant, I guess. And if the processor's making 60,000, I guess the processor's assistant, I don't know, 40, 35, 30, maybe 45, somewhere in that neighborhood. So, Kristin, what you're saying is, look, we're salespeople. If I farm out the sales activity, what the heck what am I going to be doing?
Yeah. And I think there is a time when you get to that production level, right? Where some of those activities you do need help with. You physically can't, your whole day is consumed with that. But for the lion's share of people, that's not it.
Yeah. Offloading your sales activity part is like, you're paying somebody $20 an hour to do a $400,000 a year job.
Yeah.
And they're likely not going to be able to pull that off. Right. I mean, just if they and I mean, this is just the reality of it. If they were a great salesperson, I don't know, they'd be a salesperson. Right. And they'd be making $400,000. Right. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. They just get paid more. Like, I don't think, truth be known, I don't think Tom Brady's any better of a human being than I am. Right. Just being honest. Right. I don't think he's got anything on me or you, Kristin, or you. Well, maybe Steve, but I don't think he's got anything on us. Right now. Does he throw a football better? Yep. Does he get paid way more money? Oh, yeah. Doesn't make him a better person, right? And so it doesn't make us better people that we're making more than our processors. It just means that throwing the ball apparently is a more valued thing to the world than being a great loan officer, or in my case, a great branch manager, right? That a great arm is going to get paid more. It doesn't make him a better person. So when we're talking about these things, I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea that I'm saying, oh, those little people down there, right? I'm not saying that at all. It's a very important job. It's just, if they were a great salesperson, they'd be, I don't know, a salesperson. So it'd be like Tom Brady saying, hey, I think I want to farm out the third quarter. Like, no. I'm gonna farm out the third quarter.
Great,
I need to go.
What a great analogy.
I need to go mow. I need to go mow my yard. I got to go change the oil in my car. I got to go. I got to go check, make sure that the helmet polisher is doing a good job. Right. So I'm gonna have somebody else come in and take over the third quarter. No, it's like you farm everything else out so you can do more of the sales part. And I agree with you that at some point you do have to start farming that stuff out. But I would say, what do you think? Like, Steve, anything under 25 units a month, you shouldn't even think about that.
I mean, you're not even going to start farming that out till you'll do 20 plus units a month whenever you have a full focus 40. And so you shouldn't even consider farming any of the sales out till you're well over 20 units a month. 100% agree with that.
And even then, I'm not farming it out. I'm farming it in, right? Because I'm going to have somebody who's my assistant come alongside to do the sales activity job.
Yeah.
Well, that was a great analogy, though. I mean, think about that. Tom Brady would never say, hey, I got a sub coming in third quarter. I mean, I think we're ahead enough. We're going to be good. I love it. It's almost like every position is there to keep everything off of the quarterback to do only what the quarterback can do. And you're the quarterback of your team. Hey, and Kristin, we have something for our listeners in our community we use called I was thinking about the acts of freedom, because there are people that you need in place. Like you need a great back-end loan partner. If you're still chasing conditions, whether you're doing 1 unit a month or whether you're doing 30, if you're touching anything after the handoff, then we've got to get that solidified for you. Then once you hit, I don't know, about 1.5 to 3 million a month, you need somebody on the front end. We call that a pre-approval specialist. What they're doing is they're blocking and tackling the non-sales activities so that you can stay focused on being close to the money. Your 2 hours of outbound calls Monday through Thursday. You're doing the loan consultation. You're doing the things that make you the most money. Hey, so talk like on the acts of freedom. Why don't we do this? If you go to freedomplanningcall.com, freedomplanningcall.com, we'll walk you through something we've done to help people say, okay, I've got all this stuff coming at me, but how do I know what to stay focused on? And it's very strategic in its exercise in order to help you know, hey, do I have enough help? Do I need more help? Or what do I need to do to stay focused on the right activity? That'd be a great thing to give them. So freedomplanningcall.com.
Absolutely.
Hey, one thing I was thinking about, so acts of freedom is probably where I'd start. See what you're doing that is non-money making activity. Find out what's coming in the way of you making your calls Monday through Thursday, 9 to 11. That is absolutely what you've got to do on that. And just keep in mind, there's great support that can be had. So, man, what a great topic.
You know, I go back to, a lot of times on this kind of stuff, I go back to what Ralph taught me one time early in the game is, Carl, as a loan officer, you know, you really have to define what a loan officer is. And frankly, different organizations are going to have a different idea of what that loan officer is, right? So, and I'm not saying they're right or wrong, right? I'm just saying for me, this is my definition. My definition of loan officer is the person that makes the phone ring. It's not the person that looks at the tax returns or the person that looks at the W-2. Obviously, very important stuff. It's not the person that orders out the file. Important stuff, not closing without it, but that's not the loan officer. That the loan officer is what Ralph taught me, does all the stuff that happens before the phone rings. That's the loan officer. After the phone rings, well, we can start delegating that stuff out pretty quick in the game, and you're going to need to. Even closing a modest 3 or 4 loans a month in my world, and I know Steve with your branch, somebody's closing 3 loans a month. They got an assistant, right? They got a back end assistant. They don't have somebody helping them make the sales calls, right? They got somebody that's once the phone rings. If they're meeting with an agent, they'll answer the phone for the loan officer. And if the loan officer wants them to, go ahead and start taking the application, not placing the loan, not talking about loan programs, but just, you know, instead of that person, the borrower or the realtor hitting a recording saying that you'll call them back later today, they're actually on the phone with somebody that'll actually start taking a licensed person, right? That'll actually start taking the application. So I can see farming that part out. So I'm teaching at the Realtors Association this afternoon. And so if somebody calls to take an application, my God, we want somebody to, God forbid, we want somebody to actually take the application. Which is not rocket science. We're talking about name, phone number, date of birth, where do you
Address.
work? This is easy stuff, right? I try to make myself sound like a special person that I can actually take a good app. It's just filling in the blanks, right? That's not where the money is. The money is getting that person to call in the first place. Is that before the phone call? So I would, for some homework, I would make a list. Here's all the activity that happens I do before the phone rings, and here's what it is after. And I would look at that after, and the later it happens in the file, that's what I would farm out first. So I'd actually do it in reverse order. The things that happen early in the game, I wouldn't farm out at first. Things that happen toward the end, I would. Like that for me, that's the easiest way to decide what do you farm out and what do you don't. When does it happen in the process? And it's strictly that. So don't farm out the sales part, because that's until you hit a certain point again. You know, that's where the money is. At what point, Steve, do you so somebody has we're going to call, let's call it a contract to close assistant
Mhm.
in your branch. I mean, that like everybody walks in the door gets one of those. Is
Day
that right?
one, get one. Yeah, you
Yeah.
got to keep them out of the file once they hand it off.
What about on the, when do I get some help on the front end? In other words,
Pre-approval specialist. Yep. Somebody who's doing the same lift on the back end on the front end. Your P&L allows you to have shared help between 1.5 and 3 million. So once you hit the 1.5 million,
give it to me in units, because somebody in San Diego is going to be different from somebody in Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at, so it's both and though, Carl, because you're not paid P&L. The P&L isn't paid in units. So you
No,
may have
I get it,
somebody-
but give me a units average. Give me a roundabout.
I'd say between 4 and 4. Once you hit 4 to 5 units a month, and you need a P&L that supports a shared front end pre-approval specialist, and you've got the same in your pipeline for the concurrent month, as soon as you close it, you get a shared pre-approval specialist. Because what happens is when you're closing 4 or 5 units a month, you're getting about 20 to 30 relationally referred leads. You need somebody who's helping you set up those files, chasing the bank statement, the pay stubs, somebody who's sending out the pre-approval. They're doing all the busy work on the front end. So I'd say between 4 and 6, absolutely. And the P&L can really support it between 1.5 million and really 2.5, depending on what types of loans you have. But then that's where you have a shared pre-approval specialist. You split it with a couple of people and you've got somebody chasing. Once you break about 3 million and probably 10 units, that's where you need dedicated front end support, and then your back end. So your back end's where you start. And then as your front end volume grows, you get the front end support. And then as they go dedicated, they help you lift till about 15, 16 units. And then you probably need to add another back end team member.
Yeah. Hey, Kristin, what do you think? And we really appreciate all the questions, right?
Oh, these are great.
Yeah.
Because they give us different perspectives. Where do you think this question, what do you think you know what? I just thought of something. Kristin, this question is really hiding. There's a real question hiding behind this one. So when that loan officer is asking this question, what do you think his real question is?
I think the real question is, who can I get to make these calls for me? Because I don't want to do them.
That's it.
I don't want to do them.
That's the real question.
And I agree with you. And you know, when we think about this whole process, right? And no judgment there, but when we start to get some loans in the door, and we feel that weight of, okay, I got a lot going on here, right? I got a couple loans in the pipeline. There's lots of things moving, lots of moving parts. I think right then and there, we have to stop and ask ourselves, what am I doing right now that somebody else could be doing that allow me to do more of the sales activity?
Yeah.
Not more of the busy work.
There's a reason it pays $400,000.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, that's just the bottom line. There's a reason. There's a reason. Hey, let me tell you something. This is going to sound, Steve, I've shared this with you. I don't know if I've ever shared it with you, Kristin. My favorite job I've ever had my whole life was doing some volunteer work at a Salvation Army thrift store. Right. So literally working, I did this probably about 25 years ago. I was probably like in my early 40s and or probably about 40, 41, 42, something like that. And I did a volunteer work at a the little corner stores of the Salvation Army thrift store. It was my favorite job in the whole world because I didn't have to think. Right. I just showed up and I hung clothes. I mean, I just did scut work and I loved it. I loved it. It was it sounds crazy, but my favorite job I've ever had paid zero. Right. Or, it paid $0. Let me just say it that way, because it paid me a huge amount, just not in dollars. Right. And so, but there's a reason why it paid $0, because I'm hanging clothes up. I'm putting lamps on tables, right? I'm doing, like, for all practical purposes, brainless stuff.
Sure.
And there's a reason why Tom Brady makes the kind of money he's making. Is, God, you got these 300-pound linebackers trying to take out his knees, right? High risk.
Yeah.
No, it is high risk. We think of a bad day as a loan officer. Oh, no. Our bad, nobody, I might feel like I'm limping, but I'm not actually limping, right? And so there's a reason why it pays $400,000. It's hard work. Now, is it the same kind of hard as, as I'm looking at my window here and they're planting some flowers. So there's a guy bending over, digging in the dirt. Is it hard like that? No, but it is hard, right? It is hard. And there's a reason why it pays $400,000. Hell, I don't want to do it either. If I wanted to do it, well, it wouldn't pay $400,000, right? That's just how that works. And so we get paid for doing something that we might not like. Hey, would you do this for free? No, I'd much rather be out on a boat with my dear friend Kristin, my dear friend Steve. I'd much rather be on a boat with you guys. But that's why it pays, right? And if you want to do processors work, which is awesome work, then be a processor. If you want to do salespeople work and get paid salespeople dollars, you got to do things that I feel uncomfortable making these calls. Well, yeah, welcome to the club. Me too. I just do it anyway. Kristin, I know you make a lot of phone calls. Right? There's zero, you'd never say it, but there's zero chance you feel like making those calls every day. Right? You just do it anyway. Right? Because you appreciate the results that it gets you. Steve, same thing with you, same thing with me. So
hey, and Carl, that goes back to this, I just was thinking about, it goes back to discipline over time turns into desire. It's interesting. I've watched you ride your bike for the last several years, every morning, 20 plus miles in the morning. In the beginning, I'm sure you didn't wake up and say, man, this feels great. But now literally every time I'm with you, you're like, if you miss a day, you're like, brother, I got to go find a bike. I got to take a walk. And I'm just reminded that discipline over time, when consistently executed, will turn into desire. And then desire will turn into devotion. It just takes a time. And when you see results and you see what the activity brings for you, your family, your business, your realtors, your partners, and the impact we can make, I think what we fail to do is the discipline isn't activated long enough for it to convert into desire. I've got a bunch of people in my branch. It's funny. We've been really pushing on this for months and months and months. And you'd be shocked with how many of them are saying, when I miss a day, it is so weird. I love these calls. And in the beginning, it wasn't the desire of, hey, I'm seeing results. These results are keeping me moving. It was strictly discipline. I wake up, I show up, I execute my calendar, make my 2 hours of calls. Nothing interrupts that. And then I start working in the business after that. So,
and you're right that after time,
it's a devotion. Like I can't not do it.
Yeah. It's that's like this morning. My son's moving back from Boston, moving back here to the Tampa area. And so Maria and I flew up to Boston on, what was it, Friday, I think it was. And I went and picked up the U-Haul truck, and we had what was it? Actually, Maria ordered it. What is it? College hunks hauling junk or something? Yeah. I said,
Maria.
Man.
Yeah. So I thought, I'll go with you, honey. I'll join you on this trip, So they loaded up the truck, and then I had another guy drive the U-Haul truck down here, and because it's a long drive, right? I didn't feel like doing it. So anyway, the driver says he's going to be here at 7:00 this morning, and I told Maria, I said, well, hey, I'm going to get up extra early, which was 4:00, and I got to be on the road by 4:15 to do my 25 miles to be back in time. To get back, take a shower, and be ready, when the driver comes at 6:45, to be ready when he gets here. But because of the idea of not going on my ride,
it's just
it's just become a habit. So even on these, would I rather sit and watch an old rerun of Tom Brady on playing football? Actually maybe not. Come to think of it, so maybe after a little while, these activities become such an ingrained part of it's like brushing our teeth in the morning. It's just you don't even think about it. It's just that's what you do. So good stuff, Kristin. You always come up with these great. You always come up with these great
topics,
great questions, and and you're such a gracious person, because you already have a better answer than everybody else. You're too humble to say this, but you already have an answer way better than everybody else.
I'm going to the right.
You'll say, well, Steve, what do you think? And Carl, what do you think? Well, that's good, but
I got a better answer.
I got a better answer. Now, you never say that, but you don't have to say it, because we all know, it's an unsaid thing.
It's the better answer. Yeah.
Right.
Hey, well, if you're listening today and you say, hey, I want somebody to help walk me through an Acts of Freedom, even maybe help me look at my team and how to make sure I'm focused on the sales activity, go to freedomplanningcall.com. Myself, Carl, Kristin, one of us will walk through 45 minutes of just invested time in you and your business, so you walk out of the call with a real plan that helps you get big results. So freedomplanningcall.com. And thank you for being a part of the podcast. Remember to subscribe, share, tell us how this is impacting you. And anything worth doing is worth doing badly. Just get started. See you.